Hey guys, this is the lecture video for lesson 5.3, how to record a dishonored check, how to record and journalize an electronic funds transfer, and then how to journalize a debit card transfer. So we're continuing on with our chapter 5 lessons in working with cash. And so up until this point, you guys have been recording or journalizing transactions, and they've all been pretty much the same types of transactions. So now we are going to introduce some new types of transactions, and the Cengage MindTap assignment will be to journalize just 3 different of these transactions. But conveniently so, the slides here pretty much walk you through exactly how to record those, and the Cengage MindTap assignment looks just like the following slides. So we'll start with a dishonored check. And so what a dishonored check is when a bank refuses to cash a check. So in our service business, Delgado Web Services, maybe he received a check for payment for some work that he had done from a client. Delgado Web Services, Michael Delgado goes to deposit that check, but the bank tries to cash it, and there are not sufficient funds in that client's account. And so not only does Michael Delgado not get that payment because the bank won't cash that check, he also gets charged a fee as well, which he's going to then pass on to the client. So a non-sufficient funds check is also known as an NSF check. This is a term that'll keep popping up, so be familiar with it. Step 1 of recording for a dishonored check would be to fill out a check stub to make a note that the bank was not able to cash that check from the client. So a dishonored check is here. Write dishonored check in the other description. Write the total of the dishonored check in the amount column. And then this is the amount of the dishonored check plus the service fee. Because remember, if you bring a check to a bank and then they can't cash it, you don't get the money that the check was written out for. Plus, you also get charged a service fee. And I believe in this case, the service fees are anywhere from $20 to $40, which is pretty much right. I think a lot of times it's about $15 at actual banks. And then you calculate and record the new subtotal there. The next step is to actually journalize it and enter it into our journal because we have to account for it. And it's going to go into an accounts receivable account because Delgado Web Service is going to have to pay the bank that fee and is going to have to absorb the cost of that thing, but they are going to then send out a new invoice to Valley Landscaping for the amount that they had owed them, but also for the fee as well. So our transaction here on August 29th, you receive a notice from the bank of a dishonored check from Valley Landscaping in the amount of $185 plus a $40 fee that totals 185 plus 40 equals 225. That was recorded on memo number 52. So how do we journalize this? We write the date in the column, the date column like we normally would. We write the title of the account to be debited in the general debit column. So in this case, we are going to debit accounts receivable for Valley Landscaping for $225. We're going to increase that asset account because even though Valley Landscaping paid us $185, we tried to cash that check at the bank. The bank didn't take it. So now we are still out $185 plus a $40 fee. And we are also then going to increase cash by $225 because we had to pay for that. But now we're going to send out a new invoice to Valley Landscaping in the amount of $225. They owe us $225. So that is the way you would journalize a dishonored check. So for accounts receivable, debit for the total amount plus the fee, and then credit cash because we're going to decrease cash by $225 as well. The next one of the 3 new types of transaction is an electronic funds transfer, which is just a computerized cash payment that transfers funds without the use of a check, currency, or other sort of paper documents. So this could be paying for something online, linking it straight to your checking account. Another example of an electronic funds transfer is when you pay for anything using Venmo. If you use the app Venmo, it links straight to your bank account and it pulls funds from your bank account and sends to whatever friend you're sending the money to. There's not a debit card swipe. There's not a check that you write out. You don't actually give that person cash. You're just authorizing your bank to let Venmo take that money out of your checking account and give it and deposit it into your friend's bank account. So how would you journalize an EFT? In this example here on June 5th, our transaction says we paid cash on account to Murniak Enterprises in the amount of $380 using EFT. And in the same, it's really going to work the same as like a check or cash payment for the most part. Because remember, cash doesn't necessarily refer to straight dollar bills. It refers to any money used by the firm. So in this transaction, again, just like back in chapter 3, when you're journalizing transactions, write the date, write the general account description or the account title in there. Record your debit for $380. So accounts payable, that liability is going to, so if we paid cash on account, we're paying down something that we owed Murniak Enterprises. So we're going to reduce our liability or debit our liability by $380. We are going to then also credit or reduce our cash by $380. And that's basically our journal entry right there. So again, very similar, like if you were just using cash to pay an accounts payable account, same sort of thing, but you're just using EFT. Don't forget to record memo number 18, your document number. All right, third and final new transaction for lesson 5.3 is journalizing a debit card transaction. So just like you guys a lot of times have checking accounts and debit cards that you use when you go to buy things, you swipe your card and you get the stuff. The machine authorizes your bank to release funds to the store in which you're buying something. You're using a debit card. It's pulling funds straight out of your checking account. Businesses definitely have a debit card for their checking accounts, and they would use it a lot to make purchases instead of even just, dollar bills and cash. They would take that for major expenses for the most part. So how would we journalize a debit card transaction? If we purchase supplies using a debit card in the amount of $75, again, it's going to be just like that transaction that we learned about kind of in chapters 1, 2, and 3, using cash to buy supplies. So in this case, we are going to debit supplies for $75. We are going to increase our supplies, and we are going to, decrease cash by $75. So we're going to debit supplies, credit cash, and record our document number of memo or M21, and we are all good with journalizing transactions. So in Cengage MindTap, you have 3 transactions that are exactly like those 3 slides. Make sure to write your date. And since it's the first one in this, we need to write AUG 18. Write the account title. In this case, we can refer to our chart of accounts. It would go into accounts receivable from Christine Iverson, would be our account title. And then go through, and instead of going through all these, I'll just leave it to you guys because the answers are right here, here, and here. And you should be familiar with journalizing transactions. Bring any questions to class.